Now we're going to go to yesterday's plea deal in the case of the Hudson River kayak killer. Yeah, I didn't make up that name. It's pretty good, though. Well, she admitted to the crime, but the question is, and when she pleads to just involuntary manslaughter, is that justice served, especially when she could be out of jail by November or December of this year? Angelika Graswald, she admitted to the cops that she removed the plug from her fiance's kayak as they hit the water together back in April of 2015. She unplugged him. Thank you, Mark. She also admitted that when she saw him drowning in the river, she pulled his paddle away while he struggled. And later, she said the following to the police.
I wanted him dead, and now he's gone. And I'm okay with it.
Very sympathetic figure. Then there were some complications, though, in the prosecution's case. Graswald claimed she only told the police that because she was only telling them what they wanted to hear after 11 hours of interrogation. There's also a language barrier. She, from Latvia, she claimed not to have known her rights, asking who's Miranda. And prosecutors were uncomfortable with having to convince a jury that a kayak with bad plugs would be considered a murdered weapon. Like that.
Everyone wants more, but in this case, we had to make sure that there was a certain outcome and that somebody was held responsible. It's a tough decision. I'm not happy with the end result, but given what the evidence was and what the evidence is dictates what we do. I think it was a fair result based on what the evidence was.
And that, of course, the prosecutor in Orange County. I'm sorry, we even left out the yoga she's doing, certainly not portraying somebody distraught that she just lost her fiancé. She admitted to doing it. She admitted she didn't have any remorse for it. What more do you need? I mean, three of you guys were former prosecutors. My question, Jimmy, is, I mean, do they have to have video of her hitting with a paddle?
There were obvious problems with the case, Rich.
Thank you.
And I know, no, listen, you know, I got to tell you, nobody really understands this unless you witness it. When you're interrogating somebody for 11 hours, we all know the Deskovic case, there are people who confess and say things because they think it's what they want to hear.
How damning should it be when before the 11 hours we're into it, she's doing handstands and yoga poses. She showed zero of the normal behavior that any of us would if we lost a loved one.
She was, listen, I'm not telling you she's not an odd bird, but you know, there's also the question of whether or not pulling a plug from a kayak is actually going to cause it to sink. You know, there were problems from an evidentiary standpoint, and they clearly perceived that the statement that was elicited from her was not going to have as compelling an impact as
Okay, this is another one I don't get, Doug. I heard there was a problem here because they'd never had a case before where somebody, you know, was killed on a kayak and somebody withheld aid. What do we need, literally exact circumstances to have case law to get a prosecution? It doesn't seem like that far-reaching a concept.
Listen, Mark can address this, but appellate courts look at that all the time. You do actually need things, you know, laws set up by precedent.
So if you want to get away with murder, do it uniquely?
No, I thought that rationalization that they were giving in this particular case was nonsense.
The bigger message to take from this is the prosecutor actually has to prove his case, and the defense don't have to do anything. And you know, when you look at the person doing video yoga or whatever they're doing, you know, a jury may never see that. If the argument's made that it will prejudice the jury in some way, they may never see any of this stuff. And by the way, she may be an odd bird, and she may not have killed the guy.
Well, she was in there for 11 hours. She had to stretch. I mean, come on. No, here's the thing. In New York, we have something called the confession corroboration rule. And what that means is that the defendant's own confession as a matter of law is not alone enough to convict the person. So there has to be some other evidence to back up that confession. Now, I know that they found the plug in the car, in her car, but as Jimmy said, I don't know if that constitutes corroboration because it's highly debatable whether pulling out the plug alone is enough to cause the
Okay, we're going to talk about jury selection later on the show, but I think I'd like to take my chances as a prosecutor that if they not only saw that, there's also other contributing factors, life insurance policies taken out beforehand. This is hardly the first love of her life. That people wouldn't look at her and say, 12 people wouldn't look at her, Mayo, and say, sorry, I'm not buying it.
Well, here's the
Forget
thing.
about the burden on the prosecutor. Wouldn't if you were a prosecutor, as you were, you'd like to take your chance with 12 folks from Orange County to say she did it?
Well, see, we're looking at it just with the bits of information that we have. And what I would tell you is this. If you have this alleged confession that she made, you have this video of her doing yoga, which people do that for a host of different reasons. But let's look at this
I've
case.
ever seen
Let's
someone
look
doing
at the
yoga
case.
during the interrogation, man.
Well,
I mean,
you
it's
know
not a
what?
studio. It's not
nails doing
Equinox in there. I mean,
People
look
do
at that.
yoga.
Does that look Equinox
People
to
do
you?
yoga as a form of meditation. But what I would
man.
suggest to you
Look,
is
she's
this.
meditating to you? Look at that.
What I would suggest to you is this. If with all of that they felt they had a weak case, then probably without those things they had nothing. And experts will tell you that taking that plug out does not make a kayak, and all of us, I believe, would agree
What
that
about withholding the paddle?
taking that plug out does not make a kayak go down. We know that there are a number of different cases where people give false confessions. And you have in particular with a young lady who's been promised that she's going to go home if she says
Okay.
what they want to say. And her statement
Fine.
seems scripted to me.
Okay. Okay. Last question to you, though. I'm bringing you back to the Bronx. If this was Mary Jones here from 125th Street or whatever else, right? And it wasn't whatever from Latvia in Orange County, are we still having this person walk with time served?
No, the person's going to trial and getting
getting
acquitted.
But all right, coming up next. This one bothered me. I want to see where the table comes down. If you see someone in trouble whose life may be on the line, should you be required to help or at the very least call 911? I ask that question because nowadays we all have one of these. I'm holding up a phone here. Certainly, should you do more than these kids did in Florida, these teenagers who not only mocked him, they took a video of his struggle, then decided to post it online. Morally reprehensible, but is it a crime?